Welcome everyone to the Space Careers panel. We are partway through the full day of programming at the Space Education Summit. We started with our astronaut panel. We heard from some space scientists. We just heard from a panel of educators, and now we're going to look at a broader scope of space careers. And it is really awesome to have this panel together for the first time. I think for all of you. So really looking forward to hearing all of this. We've got Christine Rincon, the founder of the Space Nurse Academy, and Jonathan Stroud, who is a space marketer, and Rikhi Roy, who works as a senior product safety engineer. They're each going to get an opportunity to introduce themselves real briefly, an opportunity to share a bit more of their story after that, and then after just a couple of introductory questions from Ron and I, we will open it up to the group. So for those of you that are here participating live, consider what questions you'd like to ask each of them, and we'll have you guys raise your hands or drop your questions in the chat as we get further into the panel. But with no further ado, I'm actually going to ask Jonathan to introduce himself first, just like a one minute introduction, Jonathan, and we'll roll through the others. Yeah.
Awesome, definitely. Yeah, hi, I'm Jonathan Stroud. Yeah, thanks, Mark, for having me. I'm excited to be on this panel today. For those that don't know, my background is in marketing and sales. Over the last decade, I've helped generate millions of dollars for small business owners and entrepreneurs using mostly sales funnels and paid ads. The last 3 years, I've been mostly working with space entrepreneurs and space startups and companies, from small startups to nonprofit. I don't know if you guys know Analog Astronaut Conference. I've helped them last 3 years sell out their conference to other companies that are literally selling astronaut training. So I think I bring hopefully a different perspective when it comes to careers, maybe a non-traditional route that I think I've taken, and I'm excited to chat about it today.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. I've been working with you for a couple of years, or at least collaborating and chatting, and awesome to have you on the panel. So excited about that. I believe our next slide is Christine. So take it away, Christine.
Hi, yes. Nice to meet everybody, and thank you so much for inviting me today. I am Christine Rincon. I am a critical care nurse by trade, and I founded the Space Nurse LLC, which is mostly about education and workforce development. And we're trying to make a space nurse hackathon. And so, really, it's about advocating for nurses in aerospace.
Thank you, Christine. Very succinct, and I'm excited to learn a lot more about all of that. And then we also have, whoops, I thought we had a slide from Ricky, but Ricky, I'll go back one more and go ahead and introduce yourself real quick for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Rikhi, and I'm an aerospace safety engineer by training. And really, over the past decade, I've been working at the intersection of responsible emerging technology, safety systems, and human-centered leadership. And I'm just really glad to be here, and I'm so excited for this conversation.
Awesome. So for the recording, I've stopped sharing the screen. Now what everybody will see will be your three faces with Ron and I, all pinned here in the speaker view. If anybody else wants to see a similar view, you can just pin Jonathan and Christine and Ricky, along with Ron and I, if you like, and you'll be able to see us as a panel. With that being said, I want to kind of ask my traditional question. You guys may have heard it in previous sessions or previous events, but using a space metaphor, I like to ask people, what is the trajectory that has brought you here to a space education event in 2026? All of you have as Jonathan said, non-traditional career path and an interesting route into working in the space industry in the capacities that you are. So that's going to be interesting to hear in and of itself. But also, this being an education conference, I always ask if there's anybody that gave you that gravity assist along the way that changed your trajectory, a teacher, a mentor, a peer, a partner, whatever it might be. Definitely would love to hear those stories. But essentially, opportunity to dig a little deeper into your story and what brings you here today. I love what comes out when people answer this question. So anybody can kick us off if anybody's motivated to jump right in. Otherwise, we can go in order, and I'll just throw it back to Jonathan.
Christine, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Um, Well, my path was really definitely not a straight line. So I essentially started at the bedside as a nurse. So I went from even my nursing path wasn't a straight line. So I did med surg, which is just like the regular floor. Then I did ICU, trauma ICU, and then I really loved trauma. So I did the trauma resus bay, which is where they come straight from if they have like an accident or something, they come, fire rescue brings them straight into that bay first to get stabilized, and then they go somewhere else. So that was my nursing trajectory. I've always loved space though. And I've learned that I loved it a little bit more than just like spouting off space facts. When I learned what microgravity does to the body and how it changes it so profoundly, I was obsessed. I was like, I'm done. This is what I want to do. However, there is no traditional path for a nurse into aerospace. And so after a few years of kind of waiting for a path to open, I was like, you know what? Let me just jump in and see what I can do to make a path or to figure out what we need to do to create a path. So I have found a lot of people that were very excited about that on the way, including Gatika. I'm so sad that she's not here because she was the one that actually she's the reason why I'm here. I got onto Ignited Thinkers and we just kind of like geeked out after the episode and she was like, "Are you free in April?" And so she was very instrumental in like a lot of it. Joining space organizations like the Women in Aerospace Medicine and OSMED and going to the ASMA conference is just meeting people, connecting with people, and that's really how I got to where I am right now. I am the director of space medicine for She Orbits, which is a nonprofit that connects women with STEM, and I found that I'm very passionate about getting a lot of different groups together. And I founded the Space Nurse Academy through my LLC um, because I realized if a nurse wants to get into this field, they need to start where I started, which is knowing their patient, which is learning what microgravity does to the body. So I created my own little course to kind of teach people the very basics of that population so that they can break out and do whatever it is that they needed to do. So, long story short, it was kind of a zigzag to get where I'm standing right here today.
Lots of small bodies to slingshot off of, right? But
Yes.
I imagine it's for people who actually know nursing, but I would love to take that course.
Oh, no, it's for anybody. I know
Oh, awesome.
nurses all over it, Space Nurse Academy and all that, but anybody can learn. Anybody that's interested in space medicine can learn that, definitely.
Awesome. Well, one of the themes of this whole day is the space education is for everyone. So that's great to hear.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I guess my answer would be similar to Christine's in a way. I think there was maybe not one person that was a mentor that like changed my life and put me on the trajectory, but throughout my entire journey, even like after high school, joined the Marines, went to college. After I got out of college, I decided I want to work for NASA or do something space. And so instead of waiting for someone else to like come along, what I did was I started a blog, just starting talking about space, reaching out to people, getting their perspectives. And, long story short, within 6 months, NASA was inviting me to go to their NASA social programs to cover their events and stuff. So kind of going back to that, like, there were people that helped me that networked and stuff, but I think you have to have that drive yourself to want to go out there and make it happen and uncover those rocks. And you'd be surprised who wants to help. Like there's been mentors. I literally interviewed an Apollo 15 astronaut, Al Warden, from my blog. Less than a year of having that blog because someone introduced me to him and they, trusted me and just built on that. And that actually led to a paid science writing gig with I don't know if you guys know NASA's Sophia telescope. I was with USRA for about a year. I wrote with them for right out of college. And I didn't know what I was doing, completely unqualified, but I knew the right people and I had the right energy and they trusted me and to give me the shot. So again, similar feedback to Christine. I think it's, you never know who's willing to help you as long as you're willing to ask and put yourself out there, I think.
Thanks, Jonathan, too. Ricky.
Yeah, my path to here has also been really unexpected. I grew up in Singapore, really passionate about the arts, media, and economics until 2014, when, if you recall, an aircraft in Malaysia disappeared. And the idea that an aircraft could vanish to me and the world revealed such profound vulnerabilities in how we move through the skies. And it really forged my passion for contributing to safe and responsible technology. And that brought me across the world to Atlanta, Georgia, to Georgia Tech, where my aerospace degrees took me through research in emerging technology certification, human factors in space systems, and lunar mining policy research. But really beyond the aerospace engineering degrees, I was navigating something much harder, which was being an international student far from home and really figuring out how to navigate this really demanding program while actually staying well and landing an opportunity after this very expensive degree. Um, and I started vlogging, similar to Process It All. And that wellness blog for engineers eventually became a science communication platform for gender minorities in STEM, which then led me to becoming a Brooke Owens Fellow in 2019. And I became the only international fellow that year, earning a paid internship and executive mentorship from astronauts, CEOs, and senior government officials. And it was really that fellowship that handed me this network and, again, a deep responsibility to pay it forward. And so, across two continents between the Americas and Asia, I founded Singapore's first Women Leaders in Aerospace conference, and this was headlined by NASA's Deputy Administrator, Lori Garver, who had also been one of the co-founders of the fellowship. And I coordinated everything end to end, from the venue to marketing to speakers to swag and volunteers. And at the end of my degrees, I eventually landed my dream aerospace safety job to really make a difference to responsible technology. But it was so challenging as an international student, and my efforts in really sharing the resources that I had, what I knew, and really the inner tools to stay resilient and well led me to hosting workshops for emerging leaders across universities like MIT, Stanford, Yale, and across 5 countries. And today, this is translated into building this multi-platform ecosystem, exploring how ambition and wellness can really coexist. And so today I host the Rikhi Roy podcast, which you can access on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, really for accessibility and representation across the world, where I talk to guests like 3-time shuttle astronaut Dr. Magnus about building meaningful lives and careers. And I write on Substack about the intersection of leadership, reinvention, wellness, the courage to really design a life on your own terms. And I also create across social media, sharing my own pursuit of embodying this, being in a demanding 9 to 5, and really building a life that feels as good as it looks. And for me, the through line across it all have really been the questions of how do we wield the power that we have well, and how do we recognize the power that we have from where we are beyond titles to really shape humanity for good, and how do we champion safety, well-being, and do all of this humanely, because I really believe that the people shaping the future of space are from all types of backgrounds and countries. And they embody that belief too, with a lot of vision and passion and clarity, like the people I'm sharing space with here today. So that's my story.
I love it. Those questions you threw out at the end too. If we have a shortage of participant questions, we're coming right back to your questions. And I've got a couple of queued up, but let me throw it over to Ron. Ron, have you got a question you want to start our panel with?
Oh, I'm always curious about space careers, and thanks so much, for joining us. I do a lot of talks with students, and one of the things I always try to do is like make the content meaningful and try and give them a takeaway. And I've been lately saying, yeah, you can have careers in any field. There's going to be a space hotel that needs a nutritionist to figure out the best food to eat and a fashion designer to figure out the best clothes to wear. So, um, would any of you like to like expand on those kinds of things that we could share with students to try and spark that idea or uh, in them and see them possibilities that they didn't really see before.
Ron, if I could paraphrase that,
Yeah.
I think it might be very similar to something I drafted. What is it? Is it safe to say, like, how might students, teachers, anyone,
Yeah.
better prepare to
Yeah.
participate in
Communicating. Yeah.
this growing space economy?
Yeah. Yeah. Any messages you've given to students that or to or to others that have like seemed particularly meaningful or uh
I remember I got some advice actually that no matter what niche you're in, just kind of really master that niche and then you'll be able to, because like you said, commercial is coming, right? So there's going to be more opportunities, and when those opportunities come up, it's who is really um the go-to person in that niche per se, and that's where it's going to start. So I feel like that my answer would be just kind of really get really good and very expert at what you're already in. And then eventually that will lead to more opportunities in space because that is definitely coming.
I
yeah.
agree with I agree with Christine what she said. I think it's for me it's like what's the skill set, right? So even, whether you want to be a botanist, a fashion designer, like there's a skill set that you have to master if you want to give value to the market. And I think that's just important. In niching down, like Christine's talking about, the old cliche, riches in the niches. If you're hyper focused in a certain area, no different than having a PhD in a certain subject, like you're the brain surgeon versus the general doctor. And I think that's a really good approach for getting your foot in the door and specifically niching down into like a certain skill set.
You have said in a way of like, find something you really love doing and be ready to work really hard to be really good at it.
Yep.
Yeah, Ricky, sorry.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been three main things. The first one, broadly, is to get really comfortable with ambiguity, no matter what you work on, working on things that are hard and open-ended, even when it's really, really uncomfortable, and making something exist first before you perfect it, no matter what you're pursuing. Second, we've talked about and touched on skills, but I really think communication skills. So if you're looking to shape direction in whatever field you're in, um, folks who are really doing that can really explain why something matters to varied audiences, whether regulator, a funder, the public, or whoever your stakeholders are. And then finally, I think really building a support system that is so strong, people who see you as being competent and believe in you and who really inspire you to do your best. I think for me, these three things have helped me so much in doing the hard things.
Awesome. Thank you. And congrats on the Brooke Owens Fellowship. I know that's a great series of people that all connected there.
I wish Christine and Ricky both. I wish I knew both about 4 years ago when we when I was working with the Space Prize Foundation in New York. We had a really spectacular program encouraging young women to pursue STEM education and explore careers in aerospace. And we sent to New York City high school students on parabolic flights, and there was pretty fantastic. But part of it was an interview series, and it would have been great to chat with either of you then. But fantastic to have you on this panel now. Actually, that's maybe an interesting segue to the next question I had on my list, which is how are space careers changing? Or perhaps even what changes have you seen since you got into your niche of pursuing your field in conjunction with space? Sorry, I know I might take a minute to chew on, but
That's
yeah,
kind of an interesting question because it seems like there's a lot, at least in my experience, coming from the marketing entrepreneurial side of it. I have multiple companies that I've worked with last year. We've hired salespeople and other employees and helped as we build out their different departments. And what I will say is, at least in my experience, it seems like a lot of the careers are new. Like it's the first time doing this. So I think that's both an advantage and a disadvantage. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm curious what Christine and everyone else's perspective is on it. But it seems like there's not like, again, going back to the not a traditional path. I want to be an accountant. I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. There's a pathway. While there is very much that in certain industry jobs, I think we're about to see the next decade jobs that we didn't even imagine, like Ron mentioned, fashion designers and other things. So I don't know. I'm curious what you guys your thoughts are.
interestingly, in 2021, as part of that interview series, I did interview a zero-G fashion designer
Oh, nice.
and a spacecraft interior designer. Like that was her job. That in 2021, she was designing luxury spacecraft. But yeah, lots of brand new jobs. Go ahead, Christine.
Definitely. And also even in just because of all of the hype and everything that's going on, just more opportunities are opening like literally every month, something else. Like a couple of months ago even there were much less opportunities, and I think last month UTMB, which is like the big, space flight surgeon training school, opened their masters to everybody else. And that is like a game changer. It's like now I can go do that UTMB space medicine master's degree, and literally that just happened like a month or two ago. So who knows what's going to happen in 6 months, what opportunities are going to open up.
That's cool. When you say it's open to anyone, you mean like folks from other states or
It's an in person, but I think it was only for medical residents only. And now nurses can do it, PAs, non
awesome?
like you're able to do it if you're like a I don't know. Everybody's now able to do it. So and there's more like not even 6 months ago there weren't any space nursing colleges per se, but now I think there's a extreme medicine program for nurses if they want to do it, and um, that has a little space component in it. So I'm telling you, in like 6 months, there's going to be a lot more stuff just because the wave is people are starting to see it.
That's exciting to hear for sure. Ricky, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think compared to 10 years ago for roles that were speculative, um, the field has really expanded to include more generalists, policy thinkers, nonprofit organizers, human factors specialists, ethicists, communicators, systems thinkers, and New Space has really created demand that goes way beyond a rocket scientist. And even if you've come into it traditionally or in a specific niche, there's so much to be said about having those generalist skill sets as well and seeing value broadly. When we think about being a crew of Spaceship Earth, it really is doing whatever it takes to be a deckhand. And what I find so exciting is that um, there's this loosening of the grip of the old guard and the way it used to be, even broadly across which countries get to participate in space exploration, just thinking globally and knowing that there's so many communities across the world and there's so much passion that inspires people around the world to contribute in many ways, whether that's participating in different nonprofits across these countries that are global, even if a country doesn't have a dedicated space program. And in working in specific fields too, like sustainability or autonomous systems or human machine interaction or workforce development for technical standards organizations in different countries, you may be doing space adjacent work without realizing it. And so thinking about what you can offer, and combining that with the vision and passion that I referenced, I think will go really far.
Big narrative or a big part of the message I take to teachers over the last couple of years is yes, what Ron said, whatever your strengths and passions are, there's a place for you in the space industry now, whether you're a nurse or a marketer or an engineer or science, there's or a zero G fashion designer. Um, but also, if you're doing other work, whatever industry you're in, you better be taking advantage of the new opportunities, technologies, solutions that are coming out of the growing space economy. Like I sort of half jokingly say, what if you work for a shoe company? Like you had better know new materials coming out of zero G, right? You'd better be able to like, what if your shoe had GPS and was part of the Internet of Things? How does that change things? So like, really, whatever industry you're in, from agriculture to crime fighting, satellites are playing a factor. So how it almost feels like, 30 years ago in education technology, we had to convince people that maybe computers were important to learn about or the internet would be important, and now it's a given that the internet is not just for computer scientists, it's for everybody. And I feel like you can very much make that same point now when it comes to the space. Whatever career you're going to go into, it's going to impact it in some way, and so it really is important for everyone to learn about. I want to go ahead and prompt the participants. If you guys have questions for the panel, queue them up, share them in the chat. You can raise your hands if you guys have questions that you want to ask. We'll come around to those. Ron, do you have another one you want to put out there? I've got some thoughts if we need them, but
Sure.
fire away.
Well, just a quick comment on the internet. It's an essential service now, like
Mhm.
water and power and heat. If your internet stops working, things come to a halt. Um, so yeah, nothing right off the top of not off the top not at top of mind. Um, but let me think for a second.
Well, let me introduce another
Yeah.
section to it because we've kind of hit the idea that anyone could be preparing for this. Um, but I also like to look kind of another step further and a little more aspirationally in terms of why is this? You can argue about money, you can argue about economics, you can argue about the economy or equity, or there's a lot of issues down here that are space adjacent or that space impacts. But like in the long run, if you look at things like avoiding existential threats and achieving our higher aspirations, not just for humanity, but all life on Earth as we expand through the solar system and beyond, I wonder if we sort of zoom out to that level, what perspective do you have, each of you have on how people might prepare for humanity's future in space? We're talking about over the next 10 years or so, we're not only going to have hopefully a permanent presence on the moon, we'll land people on Mars, we'll have, as Ron mentioned, multiple private space stations. How can people be a part of that and everything that comes after? Kind of a big question if you if you want to bite into that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I know that you've explored that a lot too, and what you do with your space education and preparing students. Um, I mean, who knows what's going to happen over the next decade, right? We all have our predictions, and I think kind of even just echoing a little bit what everybody was saying about the passion. I agree with it. I think you need to, follow your passion, and that's super important. Like I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. But I will say I think there's also a double-sided edge to that as well. I don't think that's the whole truth.
Mhm.
Um, I think if I was a student, I was going through college or something right now, I wanted to be part of the industry and I didn't know where to start, I wouldn't focus on my passion. I'd focus on a skill and I would focus on a problem that I could see. Like, what problems are there going to be in 10 years? What skill set can I master now to help with that problem? And that's just where I would start with it, I think.
It's
Makes sense.
Mark Stuckey said that this morning. He's like,
Oh,
I don't
nice.
tell kids they can do whatever they want. They can be whatever they want. He tells them you can probably be more than you imagine, but he definitely stopped a notch short of the fictional idea that you could be whatever you want, right?
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, what's happening is it's another economy that's creating, right? We're extending the economy beyond Earth. And how are you rewarded as an entrepreneur now? You solve a problem. The most highest mentors that I have solve the biggest problems, right? Because they get paid the big bucks. And that's just thinking about it from a student's perspective. I think passion again is important. I love what I do, but the skill set I think is the first step or an important step in that as well. If that makes sense.
It's a good perspective.
And like we were saying, be ready for the unexpected. And you can also kind of make your own luck. There's luck and um there's I wouldn't have flown. I had a weird kind of path to flying into space. I bought a ticket with Virgin Galactic in 2010, but didn't expect to fly until much later. But loved talking to students about space, and so developed this whole program, doing video calls with students talking about commercial spaceflight because kids should know about it. Like this is their opportunity. This is a change in the way people go to space. People from all over the world can buy a ticket to go to space now for the first time ever. So I organized hundreds of calls with me and other future astronauts and people that work for Galactic, uh, starting in 2013. And then Galactic came along and they had a seat to fill, and they put it out and to the astronaut community. And it's like, if you'd like to go sooner and pay a premium, click. So I'm like, click, and they chose me to take the seat in part because I had done all this work with them just because I love doing it. So it was like fate in a way, but it was just doing what I love doing, and it ended up getting me on the flight. So yeah, Mark was there. He saw
It's
it.
funny, Ron, your story has a lot in I know I have heard them say like once we saw Ron's name, it was done, like hands down. But
Yeah,
it also has parallels with Chris Dombrowski, who went on Inspiration 4. Like he didn't actually win the seat, but the guy
yeah,
that did couldn't go and thought of
yeah,
Chris,
yeah,
So if you put
yeah,
yourself out there, it makes
yeah.
makes all that makes a difference. Christine, I saw you unmute a moment ago, so I imagine you got something to add.
I was actually going to piggyback off Jonathan because John, you made a good point. And in any industry, there is a big problem or multiple little problems that you solve, and those are the things that advance the science. NASA has a lot of and they publicly put that out. They have the list of, these are the problems that microgravity changes the body, and this is what we know about it and this is what we don't know about it, and it's public out there, so anybody could just look and say, oh, this is my field of expertise, let me apply for this grant and write a paper. And I think that's what I really like about like the scientific community, is that people just get together. Hey, I'm good at this, you're good at that, let's just work together. And as utopian as this sounds, I think that's how we should all be. I really think that to get, intergalactic, I have to eventually really work together to get that way. So
It's a whole sidebar, but to make ends meet, which is a theme that come up a number of times today. Like I've started a local business in addition to space education efforts, and that kind of synergy is a huge, in the local business networking. Like, where can you find, people that you can work together with who serve the same clients, or solve an adjacent problem, and where are those opportunities for synergy? So yeah, no, I'm with you. That needs to be the way we always operate. Rikhi, did you have a response to Ron's question?
Yeah, I think what everyone shared was so helpful and meaningful for students. And what I would add to that is that the pursuit of skill sets for an unknown future, one that we're vision casting toward, likely require increasing your surface area for luck and that opportunity to find you, and really following paths that may not look linear at all. And for me, it has been that combination of noticing the problems that I want to solve with a lot of heart and love and passion, and following those threads. So whether that's developing the conference across continents, or launching a podcast, or doing social media, in addition to writing papers about lunar mining policy or having an engineering career, it creates this varied skill set that is personal and purposeful and aligned with what I want to do, and helps me speak to various uh, different types of roles and combinations and intersections, and helps me problem solve from a systems thinking perspective with those interfaces, and uh, really think about the big picture. And so I would say, yeah, follow different opportunities that don't make sense as you're looking forward, but that you can draw a through line across when you look back. And it will be meaningful for your personal brand, and you will make a difference because you cared about it, and you will build a skill set as a byproduct of following that.
I'm appreciating hearing that right now, and especially in light of the sidebar chat. There's been a lot of chat, maybe some pushback on the idea that we need to niche down, right? The value of a broad skill set. But what I'm hearing from what you're saying, Rikhi, is that as you build your own broad skill set, and the intersections of those, your own expertise is going to sort of create your own niche, right? Like that sort of creates your, whether or not that's financially successful is another story, but it creates your unique combination of expertise, to take to the market or take to the world, right? I may be here bringing a lot to that, but I think that was part of what I was hearing from your answer.
Hey, another great resource I that many people don't catch, I think, is that the careers page or job opportunities page at any company is a great place to look for, like, what jobs are available, what skill sets they're looking for those specific jobs. Just in talking to students about Virgin Galactic, if you look at their careers page, there's people in management, there's people in admin, there's people that have like a 2-year technical degree that are building spaceships with their hands, that's not an engineering thing. So I always like to tell students that's just like, if you're really interested, go search around, go to Voyager Space or Blue Origin and any of those companies, and see what's available, and you could get a really very clear idea of what can work.
SpaceX is a good example. I love telling this story, and I actually recently like touched base with the guy that it's about and had it revalidated. Sometimes you want to trust your own stories, but I play hockey with a couple of guys that never went to college, never got a degree. They got into welding, made some money welding underwater, right? Got into a company that does, they're machinists with a company that maintains machines. And sure enough, one of their company's big clients is SpaceX up in Hawthorne. And these guys are up there all the time. SpaceX is hurting for welders, even in Texas where they're building Starship. Like they're hurting for welders, and these guys are up there maintaining these machines in Hawthorne where they're making rocket engines. And this guy I play hockey with, I remember him once saying to me, like, Mark, those guys at SpaceX are the dumbest smart people I know. We got to teach them the most basic stuff, And it's like, again, whatever your skill set is, and you don't have to be academically inclined. Like there's a place in this sort of new space industry, space economy for you. And the other one that's a little closer to home for me now, the again, sidebar chat, the local business I've started seems, I think, to a lot of my space education people to be like completely tangential or sideways or the opposite of parallel and adjacent, but a local security company. We're talking patrol cars and standing guards, right? But last time I was at Starbase, boy, did I take a different look at the private security at SpaceX, right? And I've seen job openings for private security, not just at space companies, but at Space Force bases. So it's kind of, really, truly any industry, any role you can imagine, there's more and more opportunity for that in the space industry. Let's see. I have not seen hands go up. This might mark our first panel where we didn't have a queue, but definitely want to throw it out to everybody on the panel. I know we've got some great question askers here, including Logan. So want to encourage you guys to speak up. We've got just about 15 minutes left if I'm tracking on that right, and I might not be, but Ron, check my work. But Logan,
That's
if
right.
you've got a question for the panel, now would be a great time. Oh, you're muted again, though, Logan.
Oh, the darn mute. Um, so my 22-year-old daughter is an aerospace engineering student at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California. By the 11th grade, she knew she loved math. She loved solving puzzles that involved math, but she struggled with understanding what opportunities exist for her to create a career. And I tell this story to kids of all ages, but it poses a problem for me that I would like to try to solve, get input on. And that is, she discovered through a reading assignment, she was assigned to read Hidden Figures. And when she read the part of that book where Katherine Johnson was using math to try to figure out how to deorbit John Glenn, where he would be able to land in a certain spot on Earth, she discovered, oh my goodness, that's what I want to do, right? And so she's looking at orbital mechanics as a major. But that was kind of a chance discovery. It was a chance discovery, and I think it's a tough problem to solve. Um, but I would love to figure out, I would love to support or better understand how to increase the opportunities because I I think for that to me it's career creating. I always try to strive to connect STEAM to a career path, but it always comes back to that fundamental problem of opportunity, how to create and amplify the number of opportunities. And one of the things I've been exploring is support the personal passions of the educator so that those passions come through, and it in itself doesn't necessarily conform to a curriculum, but it essentially is a personal passion. Passion breeds passion. So anyway, I would be interested in just some feedback, just some commentary on that. I'm not looking for solutions, but hey, if you think you have one, I'm open.
Yeah. Anybody want to address the importance of passion or what Logan was saying elsewhere?
Passion and opportunity, right? How do we increase opportunities?
That's awesome. So it sounds like that's a really good skill set, right? Math, numbers. Yeah, I'm maybe not the right person to answer that question. I mean, an entrepreneurial standpoint, it's, what opportunities can you create? I think if I was in her spot, I had a skill set like that. I would try to network and figure out what other opportunities there are. I would talk to people that have jobs that are similar to that and find out how they, just pick their ear. How do they get to that and get their perspective on it. I don't know if you guys have anything else on that specifically, but
I'll tell you that she's very much on track with her career. So she's going off to Denver this summer to spend a summer with advanced space.
oh,
And
nice.
because they're looking for people who have the skills of orbital mechanics, and that's her passion, that's her love. But she only discovered that through chance encounter, right? And that's kind of the problem, right? The only way I can see solving that problem is how do we increase opportunity within the setting of education?
You're asking more for others than necessarily your daughter. So
Yeah,
with a
yeah, exactly.
Christine or Ricky or Jonathan, anything to add?
I really think that just like Jonathan said, so what you said, Logan, was that, a lot of these things happen by chance. And I have seen that too, where it's like, oh, I just happened to have a conversation with this person who had this opportunity and they thought of me. But I feel like the wider maybe like your network is um because I was at a conference and somebody was saying that there's like follow me guys, I have a point to this. There's like a little crab, right, who buries itself like in the beach facing the water, right, and it just sits there, right, but it's ready. And then when the wave comes, that's when it gets its food, right? So really it is being ready for the opportunity that you want and just kind of having your feelers out, as many feelers as you can, and waiting. And I think what we think is it just happened by accident, just a chance encounter, really was you. Because if the encounter came and you weren't ready, you wouldn't be able to take advantage of it.
Right.
So I think that
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's part being prepared and just putting out all of your feelers, having the network, meeting the people, and then those opportunities will come to you.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And even I hate to throw out another cliche, but when Ron was speaking about his opportunity to space flight, it's no different than Christine's example. It's like luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Is that the cliche? And I think even with Logan's daughter, like, if she wouldn't followed that passion for math and you hadn't helped prepare her for that, she would have never discovered that opportunity. Even though it seems like luck, she was prepared for it and to discover it. And I think that happens a lot, just to echo what Christine's saying.
I will say that the interview committee for advanced space for this internship, and it was highly, highly competitive. And I think that she won out because it was a combination of she was very enthusiastic about something that she identified as a talent that she was good at and she loved doing, combined with demonstrating how she was able to apply that talent to actual research, actual projects. So it was a combination of both. Because one of the things I've learned from her is I think the key of her chain of successes has been the creative problem solving. And the creative side of that is really kind of being open to explore and to play, to arrive at solutions. So I think, she's doing great on her own, but it was that chance encounter with reading a chapter in a book that she herself wouldn't have read if she hadn't been assigned to it. And I know that happens a lot. Yeah, I just want to see I want to see an increase in more opportunities throughout the educational career of students starting really young, and I'm trying to understand how to do that, or at least support it.
Do you feel like,
My two
oh, go ahead.
cents. Oh, yeah. Well, my two cents as someone who loved math and physics, as well as writing and arts and media and economics, is that introspection is so key in the education system. And that's what a lot of my workshops across these universities like MIT or Stanford have been about, to really dig deep into the curiosities of these students so that they can identify either through pen to paper or through some sort of reflection, um, what their curiosities are, what their strengths are, things like that. And then this isn't an answer I likely would have given maybe even 5 years ago in some of those workshops, but um, today, tactically, with the plethora of AI tools that we have and all of the job boards that were mentioned, you can pull in all of these different job boards and extract key skills. You can extract role titles, things of that nature. Because as a 16-year-old, I had no idea that the title of my job would be related to product safety or system safety. That was something that the job boards told me. But to access that, I had to connect to my desire to pursue math and physics, as you shared, as well as know where it can be applied. And I walk students through this method that's on my website. I'm happy to share it in the chat, but it really combines these introspective questions with tactical job hunting tips, from how to reach out to people when you're networking, how to build a website to share your strengths and skill sets, and how to combine these things to really move forward with purpose. Because I do think these things can be taught, and I will say they are being taught and encouraged more and more. And I think combining the tactical with the introspection can be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, what you speak to is really the information is the source of power to empower yourself to be able to achieve your goals. Yeah. Thank you for that insight.
Love that. And Ron, I feel like we've got the right panelists here when we're talking about introspection and the importance of that in education. Um, and to roll back one other step to Logan's question, like to me, I feel like that's a lot of what we're doing here is raising awareness and doing everything we can to get in front of people. And that's been a lot of my focus as a space educator is to at least give people exposure to that and the opportunity to participate and to be empowered.
And it's
We do
international
have a
too.
question. Oh, go ahead, Ron.
It's international too. More and more countries are establishing space agencies. Australia has a space agency as of 10 years ago. ESA in Europe, ISRO, the Indian Space Research Agency in India. Um, my guess would be that people tend to focus on what's in their own countries, but may miss
Yeah.
things that are worldwide that you know could be a great way to go.
Ron, are you saying like even the space enthusiasts here tend to not be tracking on the idea that the Chinese also have a full-time
Yeah,
crewed space station?
yeah.
Good for, yeah.
Rikhi, I'm sure you're not.
Always
I'm sure you're
amazing. Always
And
amazing.
we do have another question from the participants too here when we're ready to.
Of course.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm always amazed in how many space-related companies that provide services to internationally. So rather not just agencies, but actually, just companies that are even local to your own state or province.
Hmm. So I want to invite, is it Brianna to jump in and ask her question?
Yeah, I'm currently getting my doctorate in biochemistry and molecular biology, and I was just kind of curious if you know of any companies, in the space industry that tend to hire, those in the biological sciences to kind of cross over there.
I personally don't, but that sounds very similar to a lot of the people I work with, the analog astronaut community. They're always doing biology stuff, and I don't know if you've ever explored that community or anybody in there. That might be a pathway for you. But
If you were in our earlier session in the space science session, two of our speakers were astrobiologists, and I talked about this book that was put out by the European Astrobiology Institute. So there are certainly folks you could reach out to about that.
And I just found an AI answer that I
Oh,
put in the chat for you there, Brianna. But
and Elizabeth mentioned something about AI as well, but let me see if the other panelists have something to offer before we move on.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, my name is Adrian. I also have a PhD in molecular biology. So I can tell you from experience If you're just now defending your dissertation, you still have a long ways to go. Okay, just getting a graduate degree or a PhD in molecular biology is just you really, really need to focus on doing postdoctoral research. And then that career that might arise from the research that you do as a postdoctoral researcher might lead you to either academic or or commercial type applications. So to just get a job straight out of graduate school with a PhD, it's a tough slog, okay? Because there's a lot of people out there with a lot of experience in molecular biology. And so you really need to follow through, find some research area that you feel passionate about, as people have been saying here. Try to get into those labs. The situation right now in the U.S. is horrible, but there's a lot of other opportunities in other countries. So try to look up possible applications that might be in laboratories in other countries, England, Germany, France. But that would be my recommendation. Sure, you can try looking for a job right now in industry, but um, I wouldn't give it a very high likelihood. So if you want to stay in that field, you need to follow through on it. Get some research done. If you're lucky, you'll get something really uh, nice and important that'll follow through. So that would be my recommendation. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Oh, thanks.
Well, it definitely goes back to what Jonathan was saying about solving problems.
Mhm.
Martina raised her hand, so jump in there, Martina.
Yes, I'm curious if you know like where the opportunities keep popping up like now these days. And I know that like one of the opportunities is NASA Force that starts accepting applications today, April 17th. I posted a link. But do you have any pointers for people who are not like necessarily early career, but like mid or late career and are looking for paid opportunities in space industry?
Uh, You mean to chime in, or you guys want to go first?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting from my perspective. I work with a lot of startup and entrepreneurs, and I'm just amazed how many people are entering the industry and how many new opportunities there are. So I think just again, I don't know if I have a good answer for you here, but just like talking to people and figuring out again, going back to what's that skill set that you can bring, where does that fit in? And I think you'd be surprised, like there's a lot more opportunity out there than just going for NASA or a regular kind of government B2G kind of position.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. And I see some of the participants sharing some relevant links as well. And the end of the session has actually caught up to us, so I will just throw it over to Christine and Rikhi if you guys had anything else you wanted to add or share there at the end, and then I will wrap it up, and we'll take a short break before the next session.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I know that Elizabeth Warren had mentioned something in the comments about how maybe students can use AI to find like these job titles. The job title is really, especially for a career path that doesn't quite exist yet, like nursing. If you were to Google or look up space nursing, or if you were to go to like SpaceX and put nurse in there, you're not gonna find anything. But nurses do work in NASA. So it's just their career titles are very different. I know somebody that works at NASA that his title is health maintenance operations. And that sounds to me like a fancy janitor, but he
Yeah.
literally works with the ISS. He writes technical protocols, like so. The job title is a big one to really like figure out and nail down. And when for me, a lot of it is not being intimidated by the title, right? So when you go and you look and you find the word health or biomedical, right? Look at the job description. And as long for me, if it sounds like something that I can do, and it says, blank amount of years, bachelor's in a STEM degree or related. If I see or related, I'm going to apply to that job and convince them that I am what they need, not another engineer. So that's just what I would say. It has worked out for me a couple times actually. So Don't give up.
Awesome.
Well, Rikhi, anything to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, to also answer the previous question, I put a job board there from Space Talent. I think they do a really good job of capturing these roles. And to Christine's point, the titles can look really different. And so really showing your strengths and skill set for what you're looking to do will take you so far. And yeah, I just had such a wonderful time. So thank you so much for inviting us on this panel.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks, Mark.
all. Yeah, thank you,
For
Jonathan.
sure.
Thank you all for being here. And
Thank you all.
Christine,
Really
very
great to have you.
empowering to hear, even from my perspective. And I think for a lot of the folks who are here asking questions, we're really invested in this. So thank you for sharing your time, and looking forward to sharing this recording after the fact. I'm going to stop the recording right now and get the info up for the next session, and we will start in well, just under 10 minutes if we can stick to the schedule. But everybody needs a coffee break, restroom break, etc. We do have, I will share this before I stop the recording. We do have our space experiences panel coming up. My friend and partner, Dr. Kirby Runyon, planetary scientist who runs the Earth and Space Experience with me, Victoria Modesta, who I saw showed up here, bionic artist and Astro Access ambassador, and Dr. Annette Toivonen, who is author writing about sustainable space tourism. So this is the panel where we talk about space experiences you can have here on Earth without leaving the planet. So looking forward to that one. I will stop the recording there, and hopefully we will see many of you in the next session in just under 10 minutes.